Well, howdy do, buckaroos. How are you? So, if you see, I'm out on my patio here. I have the RJ Rockers Black Perle. I usually pop it and pour it in front of you, but I wanted to get a picture first, so I went ahead and did that. It's a 9.5% India Dark, and I'm going to show you this glass here. Let's see if I can see that. I'm getting a glare on my screen, so there we go. Budweiser Budvar. My wife had found, this isn't our Budweiser, if you're familiar with those. I found this at a thrift store. I think a DAV, as a matter of fact, for $3. So how about that? There we go. She found it while we were in Columbia. I was at the beer fest while she was with the ladies out shopping and going through thrift stores. So that's what they were doing. I love this beer. It's one of my absolute favorites, which is why I'm doing it for this video. This is video 1000 for me, and I'm going to warn you in advance. I'm going to run a little long, because I'm actually, my videos, if you watched me before, are more like pub conversations. So I'm just going to kind of reminisce and reflect a little bit, and hopefully you'll stay with me. The aromas on this are fantastic, though. I'm not going to delve into it. I've done a video for this beer before. I found this about a month ago. We were up in St. Louis. You get a lot of coffee for sure, some molasses on the nose. It's just beautiful. I did my first video in October of 2011. It was about 2 weeks after my daughter got married, and I kind of did it, just kind of, what the hell. And I'll be completely honest with you, at the time, I was not familiar with the YouTube beer, beer tuber culture at the time. In fact, the only person I've ever watched video for was Stuart Picard on his Facebook page, Ginger Ale Trail. I hadn't watched anybody else until I started doing a few, and then I started watching a few, and I saw that almost all with a handful of exceptions, but the greater portion were doing these very formulaic, dry reviews. I said, well, that's not me, that's not my personality. So I thought, what this sporting event needs, since there's enough play-by-play guys, is the color commentary guys. So I thought I'd be the guy that just kind of tells stories around the beer. So I kind of, fiddled with what I wanted to do for a few months. Wow, that's just beautiful. And then in, February 13th of 2012, our family things got, kind of took a turn. My son, Seamus, was diagnosed with ALL, acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So what they do is what they call induction phase. They had him there for about 30 days. It's very intense chemo. But then he went into remission, so we came home and we were up and back and forth with St. Louis first once a week, and then twice a month, and then once a month, and he was in remission, so I kind of got back in the saddle doing videos, and at this point I was doing them for stress relief, just with everything else, all the seriousness in our lives. When I had a free moment, I would do these beer reviews. It kind of helped me, level out and kind of de-stress a bit. This is really one of my favorite India Darks. In fact, it was the first one that I had. I later had the Stone Sublimely Self-Righteous and the Wookie Jack, but this was the very first one I had, and it really holds a special place for me. Oh, wow. So anyway, I kind of got back in the saddle in November of 2012. The Ginger Man himself, Stuart Picard, came and visited us on Thanksgiving for a week, and that was really nice. So him and I did just a bunch of videos together. We just knocked them out one after the other. There was a lot of drinking that week, I'll tell you that right now. And then things got kind of crazy again as we took another serious turn at the beginning of, at the end of January 2013. Unfortunately, my son had been in remission for about 10 months, and he relapsed. So that brought us back to the hospital. The doctors were very optimistic when we first got there. Seamus was one of these guys one of these kids with cancer that never really looked sick. He never acted sick. He never complained about anything. So, it was just hard to tell with him. So they were very optimistic about everything. But unfortunately, they tried 3 different induction phases. But the cancer kept coming back. And then finally, after the third one, he developed an infection. And then shortly after that, the cancer returned, and he wasn't able to fight off the infection. And then on the morning of April 23rd, we lost it. So anyway, I had a few week period. It's just a good time for drinking. Where I didn't do any videos at all, and I kind of debated at the time if I'd do them ever again. It was one of those things. I'd always drink kind of. I wasn't one of those folks that delved into a bottle when he was depressed. In fact, when I was depressed, I made sure I didn't drink. I only did it to, when I could really enjoy the beer, and I didn't know if I'd ever be able to enjoy one again. I kept trying. There were several times I made several attempts to try to do a video, and I couldn't. And then I finally started doing them again little by little. At this time, whereas before I was using it more as stress, now it just became a coping mechanism. It was just a way to, I kind of used the camera and everybody that would listen to me out there as my therapist. I would just talk, and some folks would listen, some would, some would comment back, and but I had a lot of support from social media. A lot of my family and friends, of course. Seamus is part of the cause team. But social media played a great big part. I mean, a lot of friends that I've never met in person, from Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus and YouTube, various social media, commented on videos that they saw and offered their support. So it was nice, and it was helpful. So I'm kind of plugging along. I'm a bit on the OCD side, as it were. So those of you that are OCD are going to understand what I'm about to tell you. As I got closer to hitting 1,000 videos, it became a moral imperative. I just had to keep going. So now that I'm there, I don't know how many I'll do. I'm not going to stop doing it. I mean, it's ridiculous to think you can retire. I'm not, obviously this isn't a job. It's a hobby. So like any hobby that you have, sometimes you spend more time with it, sometimes less. So, like any hobby, I kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I delve into it and I do several videos all at once. Sometimes I don't have a drink for a couple, 3 weeks, and I don't do any. This is a hobby. So, like I said, it's any hobby. I mean, some folks, you may have more than one hobby. There's probably some hobbies you spend more time on than others, and it may rotate. One time you may do this more, one time you may do that more. So, and here you go. This is my beer hobby. So anyway, to make, I kind of went a long way around the barn. I'm probably going to do some more, but I'm probably going to, scale it back a touch now that because as I got closer, man, as I hit that OCD really kicked in. So, no, you got to get it. It became a moral imperative. You got to get there. Well, now I'm here. So I hope some of you are still listening to me. I've met a lot of great friends through various social media. It's funny with what we're going through with Seamus. There's a charity that I'm involved with because Seamus was involved with it. It's called Perle the Cause, and the great thing about this charity is every penny that you donate. If you donate 1 penny to 1,000, whatever you decide to donate. Every penny that you donate goes to cancer research. You're not paying for somebody to sit in a chair and do the paperwork. They get various corporate sponsorships to handle that. So I've had a lot of friends and family, even social media friends, donate a lot to this charity that I've talked to them about for that reason, because whatever you donate goes straight to cancer research. And that's why Seamus got involved with it. We met some great folks through that organization that have really helped us through this time. one of the folks, Greg, Moose, I did several videos with Moose and Huggy Bear, his friend, Scott, he invited us up to go to the Columbia Beer Fest last Saturday. It was actually Missouri Beer Fest, but it was in Columbia, Missouri. I got an itch, just driving me crazy. Columbia, Missouri. So I did several videos from up there. Boy, that was a whole lot of fun. I talked with Brian from Piney River. Piney River is one of my favorite breweries, as you all know. You've heard me talk about him several times. I was talking with another Brian, Brian from Bat Creek out of Bowling Green. That's a very nice, kind of nano brewery that's really starting to grow and catch on. They've got themselves a nice little nook and following there, but now they're starting to grow. So he knows he's not going to make it to the Springfield market this year, but he's branching out and hitting more. So I'm hoping by next year at some point he'll get this way, because his beers are fantastic. I also did a short interview with Jared from Cathedral Square. I've noticed it, as I started doing videos, originally I would just do them mostly in my kitchen, sometimes in the living room, and I got to do them out on my patio every now and again. But I've noticed when I started going to other places, I really enjoyed doing the location videos. I like that a lot. I did several from a great pub in St. Louis called Nick's Pub. They've got 65 beers on tap, but what's great about the place is half of those taps are all Missouri beers. So not only do you have a great choice of craft beer, but you have a great choice of local fare. So that's why I recommend the place for any of my friends passing through that haven't been through Missouri before to go there. I mean, you can hit all the individual breweries, that's great, but that's a good place to go to get a lot of Missouri craft brews all in one place. And it's a very friendly pub. Certain days they've got great happy hours, and it's pretty reasonable. I think one day they have a $2 pint, another day it's a $3 Missouri pint. I mean, there are just great days up there. I don't know if I'm going to get to yet. I'm kind of hoping to get to the Microfest in St. Louis in May. I'm not sure if that's going to come to fruition yet, but I'm hoping to get there. Columbia was my first beer fest. After we left the beer fest, after 4 hours of drinking, we thought that wasn't quite enough. So then we went to actually we were going to go to a brew pub, but they had an hour away. So we decided to go to another restaurant. It's called 1839 Tap House in Columbia, Missouri. And they happened to be doing a Mother's Tap takeover that day. So, I had a MILF on tap, and I've had the MILF in the bottle, but I've never had one on tap, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. Just a great, big, beautiful Imperial Stout. It's just amazing. Oh, wow. This beer, you get big. I mean, it's almost, at first it's like a big stout. You've got that huge coffee right up front. You've got some nice bitter dark chocolate in the background. Beautiful molasses hits you, and then it's like a big Imperial Stout and a big Imperial IPA just ran into each other. It's like the old Reese's Peanut Butter Cups commercial where you got your peanut butter, my chocolate, you got your. Well, that's what this beer tastes like. It's like a huge stout mixed with a huge Imperial IPA. You get all those huge notes right up front. The coffee, the chocolate, the molasses. And then the hops just clean it all up at the end. It's just beautiful. I mean, you get these huge, pine, spruce-like notes. Oh, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I love the style. Some people don't because they like, the lighter-bodied Imperial IPAs are real trendy right now. They want that more refreshing brew. And there certainly is a time and place for it. I'm actually going to pour, I poured almost all of that into this glass. So I got that much short. I think this will probably hold a full 22 ounces. But I had a pretty good hit. I had a pretty good hit on that fish, I'll tell you that. So anyway, let me read just a touch from their bottle here. In the late 17th century, the Honorable East India Company lost one of its ships on a return voyage from the Indies. The flagship, the Harvester, was attacked by the melee of pirates and sank beneath the swells and into darkness. It said that the harvester was carrying a strange and wondrous cargo known to the company as Black Pearl. The once lost treasure has now risen from the depths, allowing the world to discover its mystery. Yeah, it's a great beer. And I apologize because I've realized I've just talked over 15 minutes now. It's not even good. And I thought I'd take this time to reflect with you all. And thank everybody that has been so supportive over the 2.5 years I've been doing beer reviews. I've had a lot of folks just supportive at first when I first started, before things kind of went awry for us, and then when we were dealing with Seamus, his illness, I had just tons of support coming out from folks. Seamus was kind of an amazing kid. He really was. Of course, everybody's kid's amazing. But, through all the cancer, every time somebody would ask Seamus about something, he would talk about something, he would never talk about the cancer. He never once complained about the cancer. That's something people always remarked about. He never complained once through his entire ordeal. And there were times when he was in intense pain, and he would never let you know. In fact, they had to force him to keep upping his morphine because he would not press that button. He just did not want to. But they could tell by the vitals when he was in pain, but he would just never let on. It was one of those things that we were always hopeful because everything else was always looking in the right direction. I tell people that, we always knew he was going to get through until it became inevitable that he wasn't. Everything just went wrong in a short period of time. Easter, we had some family of our daughter came up for Easter, and everything was great. Everything was perfect. All of his numbers looked great. All of his counts were good. And then all of a sudden, things just went, just took a turn like that, and then we lost. Oh, Lord have mercy. So that's why, I kind of, I beg folks to whatever charity you're comfortable with, go ahead and give to. I like Pedal the Cause because it goes to research, and that was important to Seamus, the research. There's a few, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's one very popular children's hospital that has done very good work over the years. And I'm not going to mention their name, but I do have a particular problem with them, and I'm very bitter about it. There was a study they were doing at the time, and to their credit, Seamus didn't qualify for the study, but they can allow the treatment for compassionate use, meaning basically that this was his last chance. They could have allowed it off study, to be administered by the doctors. That they have the ability to do that, and they refused. So I'm very bitter to that particular organization, other than say it's a very well-known children's hospital that has done some good work. I don't know if they could have saved him or not, but that was our last chance. That was our last chance. That was our last hope. And they had the ability to say, why not? Because they had nothing to lose, right? It was, so I'm very bitter to how that whole, I learned a lot about bureaucracy during that, and I'm not going to go into all that nonsense with you here, but I'm still very bitter to that organization, and I will not ever donate a penny. This is the only time I've ever said anything negative about them. And like I said, I'm not going to mention their name here, but I don't know when I'll get over that bitterness because they had the potential to save him and they refused. So let's get back to happier things. I've always said, I kind of liken my videos to a pub talk. Sometimes sometimes things are funny, sometimes things are serious. Or if you're saying something, you'll talk about the beer for a few minutes, get off on other things. Well, that's kind of what I do here. So I hope not to run too much longer because I've already made you, I'm sure I've already lost most of you by now. Yeah, watch me in 5-minute increments. I knew I was going to run this one a little long. This is video 1000. I got this, again, this is a glass that my wife found at a thrift store up in Columbia. She looked online and saw that somebody was selling one for like $70. So, holy crap. She found it for $3. So what a deal, right? I know this probably isn't a proper glass to pour this style of beer in, but I thought I hadn't used the glass yet. I want to give it a shot. So freaking sell me. You know, I have a hard time comparing beers because I like so many. The biggest names of the style would probably have to be the Stone Sublimely Self-Righteous and the Wookie Jack. This is a little different than both of them. It feels a little bigger in the mouthfeel. Feels a little bigger all around, actually. The Wookie is interesting because of the rye spiciness. But this one has just such big flavor on both ends, both on the malt, both on the hops. It's just enjoyable for me. And like I said, it was the very first one of this style I'd ever had, so it will always hold a special place for me. Oh, excuse me. So, I was going to keep you through the length of the beer, but I probably said all I have to say at this point. Again, I just wanted to thank everybody, reminisce about, hey, I made it to 1,000. Big deal. You press record but 1,000 times. Big freaking deal, man. But us guys that do this thing like to make a big deal about milestones like it's really important. You know, I don't take myself all that serious, and some of these guys take themselves way too serious. I do have a small handful of guys that I watch a lot and or read a lot. Some just do written reviews, and I've mentioned their names, so there's no point in doing that again. And, you know, there's a guy, I will mention one guy, Mark Pyle. I'm currently involved with a beer trade, and he already sent his to me. He sent me some incredible IPAs I hope to get to. That's going to be right next after this. Son of a bitch. And I've got some, he sent me a lot of, he's from Ohio, so he sent me a lot of beers from his neighborhood. So I'm sending him a bunch of Missouri beers, so I'm going to get them off Wednesday of next week to him. I've got all of them here except for I wanted to get him the Piney River Mule Team Double IPA, and I tried it for the first time at the Missouri Beer Fest, and it is just fantastic. So, and I've got some coming on Wednesday, so on Sunday rather, so I can send it on Wednesday. Got some coming this Sunday, so I want to get those out to him. That's why I hadn't sent his package yet. But he got his out to me, and he got some, oh man, he sent me all kinds of stuff. I think there were 9 or 10 beers total, but man, he sent me some great stuff that I never had. He sent me a high res from 6 Point. He sent me Hop Juju. I'm dying to try. So anyway, I am Tom the Beer Whisperer. You know. And one last time, just thank everybody who has supported me as a beer reviewer, or not a beer reviewer, but a beer video guy, and supported our family through everything we went through. A lot of you I had just known from various social media have become very good friends because of that. So, and you guys know who you are, so I don't need to mention you specifically. So thank you all. And look at that, I did make you drink the entire beer with me. So thank you, folks. Hopefully I'll be back soon. I probably have a little buzz now. It hasn't set in yet, because I did drink this. If you think, I did talk 23 minutes, but it's 22 ounces of beer, so. Yeah. See, that's almost an ounce a minute, man. So I'm probably going to need to sit down and let that buzz catch up with me, then I'll be back.